When you've got to roll of turf for your job, you have to cut it into a few different pieces. It's often tricky to get your pieces cut on the site. So we're going to go over a couple of steps today, get those cuts done, and walk you through it. We're going to cut this plastic off. You just want to go nice and light. You don't want to put any cuts into this turf backing. Get that. Right here we're going to cut an 8-foot piece. So you need a tape measure, chalk line, X-Acto knife with a sharp blade. I'm going to roll this out until we're about our 8-foot mark. Okay. Start on one side. If you're doing this by yourself, make sure you've got 8 feet. Keep the end of the tape not quite at the turf. The end of the turf, you're going to pull this to the backing, not the end of the blades. The end of the backing, let that rest. Down here, find your 8-foot mark. You want to bury the blade right there at that mark. Grab a hold of the turf next to you, push the blade through, pull back. I'm going to have a nice cut just to the first tuft. You can actually break that first tuft. Do the same thing on the other side. Set the end of the tape just towards us, not quite at the end of the turf. Make sure you've got a little more than 8 feet. Lock your tape. Bring the end of the tape to the end of your backing. Let it rest. You're gonna find that 8-foot mark. Bury the knife in there and pull back. Okay, so we got both sides marked. Tape in. Now what we want to do is roll this so our cuts land on top of the roll. So we're going to roll it back. Okay, we've got one flap here. Got this flap. All right, so make sure your cut breaks the first tuft. And take the end of the chalk and actually tuck it in there. Give it a pull, make sure it's not coming out. As you pull back, shift to the side of the turf just so you're not dropping this chalk dust all over the place. Make sure you get the chalk right in your cut so it's nice and straight. Give it a good snap, make sure your line's there, visible. Once you get the chalk out of there, time to cut. Cutting the turf from the back. You need to make sure you have just enough blade to break the backing. It's less than 1/8 of an inch. That's what we're cutting. When you get in there with too much blade, you're going to wind up cutting the fibers behind it. So you want just one click of this blade. Sink the blade deep. Break a few tufts, make sure it's cutting good. I'm not cutting any of these fibers off. We're good to go. A nice steady hand. Just like drawing a line in the sand. Just work slow. Stay with your line. You want to have a nice straight cut. All the way through to the end. We've got our 8-foot piece. So if you're gonna roll another one, you just put this roll it past out of the way. Here we've got our 8-foot piece ready to install.